All right, what's good, fam? How's everybody doing? It's been a long time, right? I know it's been too long. I have to tell you guys that you guys have all been in my prayers. Let's stay safe out there. Let's practice social distancing, and I hope that I'm coming to you loud and clear. And I hope that you are having a good day. I hope you had a good Monday. I hope you were productive today. And if you're just joining us, my name is Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. I know we have a lot of subscribers on here that are custom to our staff, and I appreciate you guys liking and subscribing. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate you guys talking Alabama football with us today. I think that first of all, the call-in line is going to be open right away. So if you want to call in and get your call in, call-in line is open. This is just a free talk. 205-686-3604 is the call-in line. So you guys can call in, get your call in right away. But I think, with spring football not being, with it not being here, there's still a lot to talk about, right? I mean, this team certainly reloading for the 2020 season. I don't worry, we're going to have a season. I have a feeling we're going to have a season. And, I know there's a lot of media talk out there that says there might not be a season. I just think it's too early to say, what's going to happen. So let's just worry about the now. Let's talk about some of these early enrollee freshmen that we didn't get a chance to see. And I know you guys want to see Bryce Young, right? We were all just waiting to see Bryce Young. And and then this all hits and we don't even get one practice. And like Nick Saban says, this is bigger than football. Of course, it's bigger than football. So thanks again for watching tonight. 205-686-3604 is the call online. Thank you for checking out our earlier video today we posted on BamaInsider.com. You can be a premium subscriber. The free 30-day promo code is simply Roll Tide at checkout. But Tony Sukalis, Tyler Waldrop, and I caught up with each other, and we talked about kind of some guys that were not going to benefit from or who are going to suffer from not having spring ball. And I think Bryce Young is certainly one of them, right? He thought he was going to compete with Mac Jones. And I'd be curious to take your calls tonight and talk about Mac Jones and Bryce Young and kind of the quarterback, if there is a quarterback battle. In my opinion, there certainly would have been if we have spring ball, just because I think Bryce is talented enough to come in. A lot of people still aren't talking about Talia Tagovailoa, right? And then you have Paul Tyson in the background. So there's 4 quality quarterbacks at Alabama, and Steve Sarkisian doing a great job working with each of those quarterbacks and helping those quarterbacks mold to their best form going into the season. And now it's so interesting because you don't have the coaches working with these players, right? I'm curious to see how it's going to affect Alabama. I don't think it's going to affect Alabama too much because they just simply reload on offense too much, right? You look at the offense, and we'll talk about the defense, of course, as well, but look at who's returning on offense. Sure, you're going to lose Jerry Jeudy. You're going to lose Henry Ruggs. No, that's going to be difficult to replace. But then you have Jalen Waddle. You have Devontae Smith. And then you have Najee Harris. I was watching the Auburn game just recently, where we've all been watching old games, right? And I cannot believe Najee Harris is coming back. Like, go back and watch that Auburn game. Just a couple quarters of it. You don't have to watch the whole thing to get upset. But just watch the first couple quarters. The way that Najee Harris was running, especially towards the end of the season, it was beast mode. It was unbelievable. I cannot believe that he's coming back. Call line is open, 205-686-3604. Get your call in, and I want to hear from you on BamaInsider.com. It's really marvelous that Najee Harris is coming back, because that's why I don't think not having spring ball is really going to affect these guys. I think that they just have they're too potent on the offensive side of the ball. And it's not only their skill positions. You got Mac Jones, who is a proven leader at quarterback. Najee Harris, who we just spoke about. The 2 wide receivers. I think John Mechie is going to flourish. I think there's going to be a couple other wide receivers who certainly step up and do their thing. I really want to see what Terrell Shavers can do. Jaleel Billingsley, the tight end. I mean, there's so many guys, right? Miller Forrestall. And then the offensive line. Jeez. You lose Jedrick Wills, but you return Alex Leatherwood. Alex Leatherwood has been a beast. He started as a freshman, right? Remember that national title game? You guys saw the video. You guys called me out. I mean, he's coming back. Landon Dickerson, how good was he last year, right? Landon Dickerson was a beast during the 2019 season. He returns. Emil Ekiyor, you guys know about him. He spot played last year. Got injured a little bit, but man, he's good. He's good at that guard position. Deontay Brown, cornbread, he's back. So, and then you got Evan Neal, who they're probably going to slide out to the tackle position. So it's an incredible offense that Alabama is returning. And that's why I don't think that Alabama is going to lose very much momentum going into this 2020 season. Now, if things pick up back by August, I think they'll be fine. I'll be curious to see if the college football season does stay on schedule to where Alabama and USC play, but I guess that's too far out to talk about. On the defensive side, I think Alabama is good to go as well. Because there was an article, and the reason why I'm talking about this is because there was an article today on Rivals.com. It was by Mike Farrell. He's talking about programs that will be hurt by not having spring ball. And he brought up number one was LSU. And I think, wow, that was, he hit the head, right? The nail on the head right there. Because LSU, they're pretty much replacing everybody. And not only from a player standpoint, but they lost some coaches as well. So them not having that springtime to develop some sort of camaraderie, develop the rhythm, I think is really going to affect them. What do you think? Do you think Alabama is going to be affected by not having spring ball? I think the younger guys certainly will. And I'll tell you where I think it might affect Alabama. I think it's going to affect Alabama in the sense of the freshmen, right? These early enrollees that got here in January, trying to, they were a part of the fourth quarter program. Fourth quarter program starts in January and February. So they got a chance to work out with, at the time, Scott Cochran. And then, the new strength coaches came in, David Ballou and Dr. Matt Ray, but they didn't really get a chance to work with those guys. I think it's going to affect those freshmen because they can't really develop that continuity with the sophomores, juniors, and seniors, right? I think that's where it's going to affect these freshmen, because usually when we look at Alabama freshmen, they come in and they have so much time to develop. They have a sense to find out where they belong. They have a sense to find out what kind of players they should be, where they fall kind of, in the pecking order. And now that they don't have that, it's going to be hard for some of these guys to really find their way with them not having springtime. You look at a couple guys that really cut their teeth in spring ball, DJ Dell last year, right? I mean, he had a monster spring in 2019, ended up starting for the Alabama Crimson Tide of the defensive tackle position. I think he's one guy that could have a monster season. There's so many guys that played last year as freshmen that are coming back with a lot of experience, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And I think, by the way, the call-in line is open. I just want to make sure if you guys are calling in that everything's working. 205. I haven't done this in a while, so I need to make sure everything's good to go. So if you guys want to call-in line is open. 205-686-3604 is the call-in line number. And when we start to talk about the defensive side of the ball, it always starts up front, right? It's same with the offensive side of the ball. Freddie Roach takes over as a defensive line coach, and I think he's going to add not only a wealth of knowledge to the defensive line. That's the same thing that Brian Baker had. I mean, Brian Baker, who was Alabama's defensive line coach last year, talk about wealth of knowledge. I mean, the guy coached in the NFL for several years, coached at Mississippi State most recently. Thought he was a good coach, but Freddie Roach, I think we got our first call coming in tonight. So let me make sure that everything's all set. I think I'm going to have to take your call again. So call back in. But as I was saying about Freddie Roach, I think Freddie Roach, what he brings, because he's already been in Alabama, is, he knows how to work with Nick Saban. He knows what Nick Saban expects, not only as a player, but as a coach. I mean, he was here as, I believe, an assistant strength coach. And now he's coaching with the defensive line, played linebacker at Alabama. So with Freddie Roach coming in, I think that's something that you should be excited about. And I think that Freddie Roach working with these younger defensive linemen, I think they're going to mesh well. At least that's just my observation. I think we all want to see, sorry, I missed your call, by the way. Call back in 205-686-3604. One guy that I really want to see shine from the defensive line perspective, and I want to see how he works with Freddie Roach, and that's Christian Barmore. We've talked about him again and again. Christian Barmore, just such a high upside, right? And played with such a high motor towards the end of last season. And I think Alabama needed a defensive lineman to really chase down the quarterback, chase down the running back. And at times I felt that they didn't have that last year. They didn't have that big alpha on the defensive line. Maybe I'm wrong, right? Call me out in the comment box if you disagree. I just felt that Raekwon Davis, and maybe Raekwon Davis will do. There's our first call. Here we go. Hey, what's going on? Appreciate you calling in. It's Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. Who I'm on the line with and where you calling in from?
What's up, Kyle? It's CFB Jared from Houston.
Hey, what's up, CFB? How you been, man? Good to hear from you.
I'm doing good. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. You're staying safe and you're staying healthy, I assume?
Yeah. School's been canceled for a while down here, so nothing much to do but stay in the house. So,
Yeah. So, before I take a question, let me ask you one. And I was just talking about the defensive line. Are you excited to have Freddie Roach on staff coaching this defensive line? Because I think with Freddie Roach coming back to Alabama, being a younger coach and working with some of these younger defensive linemen, it could be a match made in heaven for the Alabama defensive line. What's your take on that?
most definitely, especially with the fact that, of course, he played was linebacker here, like around 2005-ish or whatever. He's got experience, like you said, with being like the assistant strength coach and whatnot. I'm really excited for it. I was really happy with, Brian Baker when we hired him, but I know he didn't seem to pan out a ton. Of course, he didn't get dealt a great hand with LeBron Ray going down and, some more injuries. But I'm just really excited for, what Freddie Roach can bring. And he's already, been recruiting. Of course, missed out on McKinley Jackson,
Yeah.
but, it happens, and what can you do? So I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you calling in. So, you got a question, I assume, or you just want to talk some ball? I mean, I want to do the show because I had planned to do some daily shows during springtime, and then all this happened, and then I was like, I don't know if everybody wants a show, and then I was just like missing my peeps on YouTube, so I had to start the show up. So what's on your mind, CAB?
I mean, I didn't necessarily have a question, but I thought of one. So Quindarius Robinson, Drew Sanders, Chris Braswell, and William Anderson. I don't think any of them will start this year because there's too much depth ahead of them. At the outside linebacker position with Ben Davis, King Makuta, Chris Allen. Then you also have Jerez Parks and some other guys. But out of those four that I mentioned, the four freshman outside linebackers, who do you think is like most likely to start, say, maybe next year out of those four?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And you look at all the talented linebackers that Alabama has coming in. I mean, you look at the same thing with the running backs, right? There's three running backs that are very talented that are coming in. I'm not sure how much playing time the running backs are going to get, but in terms of talking about the outside linebackers, I think there's certainly room for one of these outside linebackers, if not two, to really make a splash and get on the field this year. You look at a player like Chris Braswell. I think we were all excited to see what he could do when he came in, and being an early enrollee. I think the same speaks for Quindarius Robinson. I mean, I'm sure you saw it just on Twitter. I mean, they posted him just working in the tall grass, kind of that road work. And Drew Sanders, a guy out of the Lone Star State. I mean, he's a guy that everybody's really excited about. So I think there's a lot of guys that as freshmen could see the field at the outside linebacker position. I know you mentioned who Alabama does have returning, King Makuta. Chris Allen is a guy who I think could really do great things this year for Alabama, working with South Siri. And then another name you brought up is Ben Davis. It's kind of like the curious case of Ben Davis, and if Ben Davis will finally get onto the field in some sort of a starting role. I don't see it happening. And then how about this, CFB? A lot of people have been talking about him, but what about Cameron Latou making his way back to the defensive side of the ball? Because Alabama has Miller Forrestall at the tight end position. They have Jaleel Billingsley. And then you have, Major Tennyson. So those are kind of your tight ends. You have Carl Tucker coming in, who's a grad transfer from North Carolina. And then Cameron Latou is still over there working with the tight end. So I wonder if that experiment of Cameron Latou working with the tight ends will end kind of over the course of the summertime. And you'll see Cam Latou working back with the outside linebackers. I could certainly see that happening.
Yeah. That you bring up, a good point with Cameron Latou, and what if he moves over and whatnot. With Ben Davis, I know you said you don't think he'll start. I'm leaning towards him over, because I think Chris Allen kind of has that spot. Of course he's not the true starter, but we saw that he started versus Michigan. And, it's going to be his fourth year because he'll be a redshirt junior.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Ben Davis will beat out King Makuta. I understand that King Makuta was needed to add some weight last year as a freshman and whatnot, but I know that Ben Davis was backing up, I believe it was Anthony Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
So, overall on the depth chart, considering the depth chart last year, he has, like, I guess, a slightly better advantage. But, it's going to be a definitely tough competition between, King Makuta, Ben Davis, Kevin Harris.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, Kevin Harris is, I think, another guy who certainly could get on the field. And I mean, there's a lot of young guns at the outside linebacker position, and South Sincere really needs someone to step up and prove that they can get after the quarterback after Alabama lost Anthony Jennings and Terrell Lewis. I mean, those guys are two very notable defensive players who I think it's going to be hard to replace those guys. They have veteran leadership, tremendous athleticism. Both will go in the NFL draft. And I mean, Anthony Jennings, I felt at times he was a little bit slow, but he always came to play. He got after the quarterback when he needed to. There was times where he had 7 to 8 tackles. Terrell Lewis, I know it seemed like, he was banged up most of his career, but I think in the NFL, that he's built for the NFL, just his athleticism. And I think it's going to be hard to replace those guys. Anything else, CFB, while I have you on the line?
Last thing, with David Ballou and Matt Ray coming in, I'm really excited for them. I know that, they didn't really get to integrate much, of course, because coronavirus and whatnot. But, we saw, especially like with Matt Ray and the scientific approach that they've done, I believe it was like 2.6 miles an hour or something like that, on average, that he increased like their players' speed. And so just thinking about that with a guy like Jalen Waddle really has me excited.
Yeah.
I didn't even think Jalen Waddle could get faster, but I mean, the numbers are the numbers, and they didn't lie. So if he can get Jalen Waddle 2 miles an hour faster.
Scary, no, I think one of the quotes that Dr. Matt Ray had that I picked up on the most, I think it was an article in stack.com. It said that speed wins football games. And I completely agree. I think speed is, the number one aspect that you have to have on your team to win football games. And you have a player like Jalen Waddle, who's so dynamic. I've said it again and again. I think if used properly, he's the most dangerous player in all of college football. Even last year, you saw what he did against Auburn. That was unbelievable. Yeah. Nobody talks about that Auburn. People talk about the Auburn game, and they talk about the 2 interceptions by Mac Jones. That's all they talk about in the loss, right?
That angers me that they just blind eyeing. Well, he threw 2 picks.
No. The play at Jalen Waddle was ridiculous. Seriously, it was unbelievable. Yeah. So I think getting to your point, having him work with Dr. Matt Ray and seeing those two link up, it's like Dr. Speed meets Flash, right? So those two guys working together, I think it's going to be fantastic. And we'll see what David Ballou can do. Scott Cochran, for the most part, I thought did a good job with the players. I know a lot of people now that Cochran's out, a lot of people are questioning the injuries and if he was kind of behind that in terms of his approach with the players. I have no idea if anything holds true to that. Players get hurt all the time with different strength trainers, but people want to see what David Ballou can do and Dr. Matt Ray. And I think that those guys, having this scientific approach, and now that Alabama has their science center, it's kind of it really meshes well together. And I'm curious to see how everything unfolds with that new science center that Alabama has. I mean, it looks like a first-class facility, and I can't wait to fully tour it. But thanks for calling in, CFB. I appreciate it, man. You've always been a solid caller, and we certainly appreciate it, man. You stay safe out there, and we'll catch up with you next time.
All right, no doubt. Stay safe.
All right, take it easy. All right, that's CFB Jared coming to us. Calling line is open, 205-686-3604. Just talking football, talking Alabama football, kind of, I was telling CFB, I know a lot of you guys, we've talked, for years now, and not having the call-in show, I was like, man, I don't know if you guys want the call-in show. Is it relevant enough to talk about right now? So I really just wanted to come out and just kind of check the pulse and see how you guys were feeling about it. So I appreciate you calling in, CFB. It's certainly good to talk some football and kind of bring up the monotony of just kind of staying inside, right? I know that all of us have been quarantine to stay inside and to self-isolate. And that's strange. I think it's strange for people to do that. I think as a society, we need each other, right? We're used to communicating with each other. So it certainly feels good to catch up with you guys via chat and just talk with you guys tonight. I'll have Andrew Bone come on a little later sometime. Maybe we'll even do kind of a side-by-side show where we take your recruiting calls as well, because I know a lot of you like to talk recruiting. And right now, Alabama only has 1 commitment from the class of 2021, which is puzzling as we get into mid-April. And April is usually a month where Alabama likes to have these guys come to campus and go through practice, and they like to have the coaches clinic. So all that has changed now. And I'm curious to see what transpires in terms of the recruiting front. So I'll definitely have Andrew Bone come on and talk to you guys about that. But as I was talking about before CFB called in, I was talking about the defensive line and just Freddie Roach and the excitement that I think Alabama fans should have for Freddie Roach coming in. You know, I think that he should add, some excitement and some knowledge to that defensive line unit, which is young. We talked about Christian Barmore before. You also got DJ Dell. You got Tim Smith, who's coming back or will be a freshman at Alabama. And then you also have some other young guys who played last year, a lot of guys. Justin Ebogbe, he was very good. Byron Young. So a lot of these defensive linemen are coming back. Fedarian Mathis is a guy who I think could do really well for Alabama next year. So there's definitely guys at the defensive line, and I think I forget who it was, but someone just tabs Alabama defensive line U, right? I guess you could do that for every position at Alabama, right? Running back U, wide receiver U. Next position I guess we could talk about is the linebacker position. Inside linebacker position, what you guys want to talk about? Dylan Moses returns. I know you guys are really excited to see Dylan Moses back from his ACL, and that forced Alabama's defensive coordinator, Pete Golding, to play two freshman linebackers. And I don't know if it forced him to, because he had guys behind him. As Nick Saban said, Markel Benton still suspended for the team. So you have Dylan Moses coming back. You have the two freshmen who started last season, Christian Harris and Shane Lee. You have Ali Cajo. We're all expecting Ali Cajo to do great things at Alabama. You have a couple other guys behind them as well. But I think the fact that Dylan Moses returns will make this defense take it to the next level, right? Because he's their defensive leader. I mean, if you've ever heard Dylan Moses speak, in fact, there's a video that I have on YouTube. If you go and type in Dylan Moses at SEC Media Days, incredible interview with Dylan Moses. I mean, this is last season at SEC Media Days, and you could just tell how polished he is, how groomed he is, and ready for the NFL, really. And actually, remember, it was kind of like he elected to go to the NFL draft, and then it was like he put out a statement, and then he came back. So either way, he's coming back, and I think it's going to be great for Pete Golding. And what do you guys think about Pete Golding? You guys, eager to give him another chance? You guys, do you guys feel that a lot of the defensive woes was because of Pete Golding? Do you feel that he should have went another route playing those two inside linebackers all season long? And you got the two inside linebackers. I mean, Christian Harris and Shane Lee. I think Christian Harris, he's good in space, and Shane Lee, he can put the wood on a running back, on a receiver coming across the middle. We got another call coming in. Hey, good evening. What's going on? It's Kyle Henderson, BamaInsider.com. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, what's going on, Kyle? It's Chris from Massachusetts.
Hey, what's up, Chris? How you been, man?
Hanging in there, surviving without football for now.
I know, man. It's tough. It's so tough. I don't like it. I don't like living this way. And I had to come on. I was like, I need to talk to some other people, So I'm like, please call in.
Trust me, I'm the same way.
Call in for some sanity. Just talk football to me. So what's up, man? Which direction you want to go?
I heard you were talking about the defense. I mean, I agree with you with the D-line. The way everything's shaping out, we're so young, and they all got playing time last year due to all the injuries that we had. I honestly think the biggest question mark is going to be our secondary, and I'm not worried about it. I think the only spot I'm worried about is going to be that corner position, because I don't know if Josh Job's going to be able to do it. He's already had some struggles before, and he's not as consistent as you would want. I mean, you can move Patrick Surtain to that star position, and we got the junior college Ronald Williams. So we pretty much graduated our whole secondary. So yeah. I think that's a big spot that people are going to try and pick at us for. But I mean, look at who we got in the secondary, like at safety. You got DeMarco Helms, you got Daniel Wright, you got Jordan Battle. So I'm comfortable there, but I think the Josh Jobe part is where I'm scared.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, and I didn't get a chance to talk about the defensive backs just yet, but I think the same thing with you. I'm kind of curious to see what transpires at the corner position because if they move Patrick Surtain to that star position, then who are going to be the corners? Is it going to be Josh Jobe and Jalen Armour Davis? Is it going to be the junior college transfer? I mean, you're talking about people with limited experience, and you're going into a game against USC. USC loves to throw the football, right? Week 3, you got Georgia. I mean, it's not like Georgia's going to throw for a ton of yards, but those are some big games, and it's not a lot of room to grow like there was last season. And then think about it. I mean, who Alabama plays this season, you're playing a ton of former coaches who are going to try to exploit that, right? You play Lane Kiffin, you play Kirby Smart, you play Jimbo Fisher, you play Jeremy Pruitt, right? It's like every coach now used to coach for Nick Saban, right?
And it's like there's always something going on with that defense. Last year we had the experience in the secondary, but our linebackers who made all the checks and calls were puppies, you know. And now we get the secondary who are the puppies, and we have Dylan Moses that's back. So hopefully that can clear up some stuff, and maybe that will help the secondary lineup, and they'll know what they're doing. I mean, you still got Patrick Surtain, who's probably going to be a top 10 pick in the draft next year. But I mean, regardless, you just got to hope Dylan Moses brings that energy and brings that like football smarts back to that defense, and bring that nastiness on that D line too.
A name you said that I want to talk about is DeMarco Hellams. DeMarco Hellams, I think he could be a thumper. I think he's going to be a guy who makes some hits that we have on rewind again and again. I mean, the kid has athleticism.
I think he's going to be like honestly, like a Ha Ha Clinton Dix. Just brings the wood, and he's freakishly athletic.
No, he is. I mean, the dude, like, I have clips of him. I'll show you guys. DeMarco Hellams is one to watch, and I wouldn't sleep on Daniel Wright either. I've watched Daniel Wright. He practices like a veteran. I know a lot of people are quick to put DeMarco Hellams over him, but I think he's going to provide a solid safety. And then Jordan Battle, I mean, he played plenty last year, so he's coming back. You gotta watch for the sophomore slumping. But hopefully we don't see that from him. I mean, he's very talented.
I do agree with you on that, though, with the whole DeMarco Hellams. But I think honestly, in my opinion, if they're not comfortable with moving Patrick Surtain to that star position because they're going to be weak on the corner, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you saw, I think it was Jaron Maiden said that DeMarco Hellams could play everything in the secondary. I wouldn't be surprised if you watch him go down to that star, and then you just have a solid corners. You know what I mean?
I like that.
Because Daniel Wright needs to be on the field.
Yeah, that's actually a good setup. I like what you're saying there. So you got Patrick Surtain, Josh Jobe, let's say he improves, or Jalen Armour Davis. You got DeMarco Hellams at the star. You got D. Wright at safety, and then you got Jordan Battle.
Yeah, and you know what? And if it comes down to it, you look at what happened when it was Savion Smith was there. He was fighting with Patrick Surtain week to week to see who would start, and then Trayvon Diggs got hurt, unfortunately, so they had to play him. But you have that little position battle between Jalen Armour Davis, Josh Jobe. Not every week's given. Ronald Williams, you got to earn your spot.
Yeah, no, I got you. No. And I think that's certainly an area that Alabama has to tighten up. I mean, this is a game where everybody likes to throw. They're going to go over the air to you. And especially when you get to the bigger games later on in the playoffs. I mean, I think we all know that some of the teams that are going to be finally standing are the teams that can throw the football, just like there was last year. I mean, what Joe Burrow did at LSU was phenomenal.
I was just about to say, I mean, I think the best thing that happened to Bama was that LSU brought that air raid type offense to SEC because, I mean, when we get to the playoffs, we play Oklahoma. We play Clemson,
Yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, what LSU did last year, that's only going to rise the competition. You only get better from great competition. And now that Alabama has seen that aspect of what LSU can do, I don't think they're going to duplicate it. I think that would be pretty much impossible for LSU to do. But my point is that they're going to be ready for it, right? They hadn't seen nobody. I mean, that was phenomenal what they did. But I think they'll be ready. So no, good call. And what else is on your mind, man?
I wanted to ask you offensively. I mean, obviously, we could go back and forth with this whole QB thing. Let's just pretend it's Mac Jones, But what do you think is going to be our strength next year? I mean, we got some workhorses back there in the backfield, and we got a stacked O-line coming back. I mean, I think we go back to the old ways or what Bama was. We're going to run down your throat. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if we have to pretend that Mac Jones is going to be the quarterback. I mean, I think he is going to be the quarterback. I mean, just with the experience that he has, from last season coming into this season, I think a lot of people sleep on Mac Jones, to be honest.
I think the way he played in any game he came in, and the way he came in with Michigan. I mean, I'm fine with them. I mean, listen, people forget. Like we won with Jay Coker. You know what I mean?
I mean, no, I get you. It's just like it kind of disappoints me sometimes when you look at that Michigan game and what he did in that Michigan game, even some of the throws that he had in against Auburn, and people are just like, no, that Michigan game, it didn't, wasn't anything. No, like that. Go back and watch some of the timing patterns that he had with Jerry Jeudy. I mean, they're incredible. But you're right. You bring up another good point. I mean, with Alabama's offensive line that they return, I talked about it at the beginning of the show, especially at the offensive tackle standpoint, Evan Neal and Alex Leatherwood, and then your two guards, probably Mil Ekiyor and Deontay Brown, Landon Dickerson at the center position. That's an amazing offensive line.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
crazy.
I think it's going to be better than last season. And then, I mean, look at Najee Harris. How many carries is he going to get? That's my question.
Yeah, no, and you know what though? Look at we kind of veered off, which you get caught up in the moment, like a victim of the moment. But like you have Tua behind there, you don't want to give it to the running back 40 times a game. But like we started doing that in the big games when we couldn't move the ball. You know what I mean? And I mean, Najee's proved to be the workhorse. That's always been the question mark because he's never been the workhorse, but he proved it at the end of last year, that second half of the season.
Oh, he did. I mean, I've been watching clips of Najee Harris, and I'm just like, I can't believe this dude is coming back for 2020. It's crazy. And then you have Trey Sanders, and we're like, what are you going to do, Trey? Like, how good are you going to be, right?
I remember I called in around this time last year, and we were all talking about Trey Sanders, and then the foot injury happened and stuff. But like I'm going to expect the same thing. I mean, in all honesty, I love Brian Robinson, but I think he just jumps over him. I think you'll see him in the first couple games split carries with Robinson, but then eventually you're going to see what he does with the ball, and he's gonna slowly get more and more.
I mean, a lot of people don't talk about Brian Robinson. I think I'm curious to see if that kind of drives him to work hard during this time to get faster, to kind of prove himself. And maybe that'll be better for Alabama going forward. You also have Killen Robinson, who Nick Saban refers to as has the juice. Yep. And then you have all these other younger running backs coming back. And then you had Jerome Ford, who transferred out. So the running back position.
I think it was you. I don't know if it was you in one of the articles that got put out, but it was the lack of explosion that Brian Robinson had when he hit open space. Well, we'll see what the new strength coach Blue and Ray do now.
There you go. Yeah. Just like our last caller, CFB Jared said, if he can improve on speed, especially with a guy like Brian Robinson, because I don't think it's a talent standpoint from Brian Robinson. It just felt like he was a little bit slow to me. It felt like maybe he has too much weight. I think he's hovering around 235 pounds. Him and Najee are big dudes. Trey Sanders is about like 205, 210. But that's a big difference, 20 other pounds, on top of these guys. And Najee wears it well. I mean, you've seen him jump over people. But I got to run to the next caller, but I appreciate you calling in. I'm glad that you called in. It's just good to talk some football. I was kind of just curious to see. I was like, is there anybody out there who's going to answer? Who's out there? It's like 28 days later, man. I'm freaking out. It's like I need human interaction. So thank you. You guys
it was good talking football with you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I'll catch up with you next time, man. Be good. See it. You guys seen that movie 28 Days Later? That where the dude wakes up, it's like a ghost town. I mean, there's some crazy movies. I Am Legend. I just feel like trapped. And a lot of these movies, and you stick on social media, and sometimes I feel good, and then sometimes I just feel freaked out, right? I think, do you guys feel like that? The more I say I have social media, the better I feel about everything. But the more I go on social media, the more freaked out I get. It's crazy. I don't know about you, where you guys live, but here in Tuscaloosa, if you go to, we have Publix. That's where we go. Publix, Winn-Dixie, and we got Piggly Wiggly. But if you go to those grocery stores or even Home Depot, which obviously we don't now, but they only allow 10 people, something like that, into the stores. And you can, it's just such a weird time to be living. So My point is, it feels good to talk some football. I think it's therapeutic for all of us. Call line is open, 205-686-3604. I'll take a couple more calls and then call it a night. And then I'll, depending on, how you guys are vibing out there, and try to make this couple days a week, maybe 3 days a week. I originally wanted to do a daily show during spring football. I just thought we had a lot of momentum. And then everything, happened. I mean, it was like once. All right, here we go. Hey, what's going on? You're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, this is Mike from Kentucky, Kyle. How you been, brother?
Hey, Mike. Great to hear from you. It's been a long time. I'm glad to hear you. You doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing as well as I can, all things considered.
That's good. So, tell me how things have been out in Kentucky, man.
Well, I live in a rural town, Kyle. It hasn't, we don't have the problems New York is having right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've had 3 confirmed cases where I live in Carrollton, Kentucky.
Okay.
It's sobering to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to wish everyone luck and strongly urge everyone to develop unwavering principles about protecting yourselves, and don't be complacent. Like Nick Saban says, don't be complacent about this, because it can hit anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, I think before we get going, Mike, I think that's important. I think that's an important statement. I think if you're out there, I think if you go to the grocery store, put a mask on it. Even if you're not in the higher risk categories, I think it's a smarter thing to do is just to social distance, but also to be safe, right? Like let's be aggressive about this and let's stop this. So no, I think you're dead on, Mike. But I'm glad that you're well. I'm glad that you want to talk some football. So what's on your mind, man? Which angle do you want to go?
Wow, I was so psyched about this situation. We have Bama's going to have depth next year on the defense. The D line's too deep, 320-pound killers from one end to the next. The linebackers have experienced veterans coming back with experienced youth behind them. Man, I was just psyched for the season. I really was. I think we've got the most talented backfield since Yeldon and Lacey. I think the first 2 guys are that good of a punch, and there's 4 guys behind them that can play too. And the receiving core is loaded.
Mm-hmm.
The quarterback, position I think is in good hands, whichever way the ball bounces. I was just like, okay, Bama's back this year. We had a little bit of a down year last year, and it still took 2 very good football teams to beat us.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think last year was anything to hang your head about. It just, it just comes that way sometimes.
Mike, when we look at the college football spectrum, who is like going into this season, who is Alabama's top 2 challengers? I know we're still so far out, but I mean, we know college football. We talk college football. Who are Alabama's 2 top contenders that'll stop them from winning another college football championship, or at least try to stop Alabama? Maybe that's better said.
Well, it's once again, Kyle, it's the same old song and dance.
Yeah.
Ohio State keeps recruiting at a just as high level as Alabama. They've got some young quarterback talent too.
Yeah.
Coming in and that are fantastic. They seem to reload every year, and their coaching staff's remaining in place. I don't think Ohio State's going to miss a beat. And Clemson, and nothing changes at Clemson these days either. They're going to be another, tough game. I think it's the same top 3 teams that's been battling at the top of the mountain for the last 4 or 5 years: Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you. And the Clemson, I mean, with Trevor Lawrence coming back, I think all eyes will be on Clemson. It was kind of interesting last year that nobody talked about Clemson there for a good part of the season, probably because their schedule, is what it is. But
Lawrence got off to a rocky start last year.
He did.
And people kind of started doubting them. He threw 6 picks in like the first 4 games last year.
Yep.
I told you, man, he was a little bit too cocky. He thought he could throw it in there all night, and he once he dialed it back a little bit, they came on good at the end of the year.
Who's that 4th team? Is it Georgia?
I don't know. There's just too many questions at Georgia offensively this year. I mean, their O-line is going to be inexperienced. I mean, their quarterback position is not settled. They do have some talent, but if they're counting on a Wake Forest transfer, I think their backfields, although they have quality athletes, I think they're going to take a step back. They don't have DeAndre Swift this year. Their defense is tough. They got a couple of kids we wanted last year that are going to be monsters. The boy out of Mississippi, their middle linebacker, their defense is going to be good, and they might be able to hold it together for them until the offense gels. But I don't know.
But I think when you look at spring football, I think another team that spring football or not having spring football will certainly affect is Georgia. Because just like you said, they're trying to develop some continuity on the offensive side of the ball. I think defense, we all know that they pretty much return everybody, so they're going to be good on defense. But not having that springtime and then having Alabama the third week of the season, if everything still stays in schedule, I think that's going to benefit Alabama as opposed to Georgia. I think they'll struggle because you don't really find your form on the offensive side of the ball within those first 3 weeks. I think Alabama will, just because of the amount of players that they have. But I think with the team like Georgia, they're going to be a completely different team from week 3 to if they are to reach the SEC championship, and so is Alabama. That's what I'm saying. I think just not having spring ball is certainly going to affect a team like Georgia.
Yeah, I think Bama's too tough a nut to try to crack that early in the season. I just can't see Georgia even. I think Bama will beat them by about 17.
Let me ask you this, Mike. What about Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss? You think there's going to be some resurgence at Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin?
Well, they've got talent at quarterback and they've got talent at receiver too, and that's his wheelhouse. Otherwise, personnel-wise, I'm really not up to speed on what they have. But with Lane Kiffin calling, if he's running his offense, and I would imagine he's going to be calling some plays himself. I just can't see him not doing that, even though he is going to be the head coach. I don't know. I mean, they may be a team on the horizon, but I don't think they're going to beat LSU, or I don't think they're going to beat Bama or Auburn either. I think they might finish fourth in the league. That's where I've got them picked.
Yeah, I mean, just like I was saying in the last caller, it's like every single head coach now used to coach under Nick Saban almost, right? It's like it's unbelievable. The coaching tree of the SEC is now all under Saban. Jimbo Fisher, Jeremy Pruitt, Lane Kiffin, Kirby Smart. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's quite incredible. Mike Leach is another name that has jumped now into the SEC tree. So he didn't coach with Saban, but just having Mike Leach, in the mix is, especially Mike Leach in Starkville. It's such a strange combination.
I love that guy.
Yeah,
I love listening to his interviews. He just takes life so off the cuff and light. He's complete. He's a polar opposite of Nick Saban, but don't think that guy can't coach football.
Oh no. He certainly can. I was so excited to go to SEC Media Days this summer. To get Lane Kiffin, Mike Leach, Kirby Smart, Jeremy Pruitt, Nick Saban. It was like it was going to be unbelievable. So I don't know. They haven't sent out if that's still going to take place. But I was so looking forward to hearing Mike Leach and all these guys speak. Anything else on your mind, Mike, while we're on the phone talking? It just feels good. It feels good to talk. So I'm glad that you're doing well, Mike. I'm glad that you called in tonight.
I'm doing the best I can, Kyle. I'm a jailer. I've got a high risk job, and we're not turning our lawbreakers loose.
Yeah.
We're trying to take safety precautions, but so far so good. I'm so thankful to be working.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed for my son. He had just got accepted into the Dow Corning engineering program, and that's a really good job. But he got him another job that they temporarily postponed it. So, I'm doing well, and I just once again I want to stress to everybody: please develop principles and be steadfast in your efforts to protect yourselves. It's not only you're not only taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your people around you too.
Well said, Mike. Well, we appreciate you calling in. I'm glad you're doing well, and we'll hear from you next time. Okay, Mike?
All right, man. You take care, Kyle, and everybody else. God love y'all too.
All right. Take it easy.
Everybody be safe. Thank you.
Mike in Kentucky. Always a good caller. I appreciate hearing from him. Well, thank you so much for everybody. I appreciate you guys joining in. It was really good to have some dialogue and talk some Alabama football tonight. Please like and subscribe. It certainly helps the channel grow. We appreciate you guys being here. Please be safe. Please take care of each other. As we always say at the end of the show, special thanks to the men and women overseas protecting our great freedom, and especially great to thanks to our doctors, our nurses, and everybody on the home front taking care of our own people. Feels good, to see the country come together, even though we are in isolation, if that makes sense. Be good people. I appreciate you guys being here. We'll catch you soon on BamaInsider.com. If you want to become a premium subscriber, simply go to the website. Promo code is simply Roll Tide. My email is Kyle@BamaInsider.com. Be safe. Be good people. We'll catch you soon. Next time on BamaInsider.com.